In Oklahoma, Dad got a job with a construction firm after only 3 days of job hunting. The adults also enrolled Wendy in school. They did not, however, put Robbie in kindergarten. Lana suggested it, but Dad flew into a rage. "Are you crazy?" he shouted. "Do you want the Oklahoma social workers to come nosing around here?" So for the first week they lived a rather typical blue-collar existence, with Dad going to work, Wendy attending school, and Lana staying at home with Robbie and little Harry Joe at the Southwestern Trailer Court. But after 3 or 4 days on the job, Harry arrived home limping and complaining of great pain. "I hurt my damn leg again," he told Lana, "but the doctor says there's nothing wrong. I told them what they could do with their job. I'm not going back." And so, seething with rage against a construction boss thought to be unsympathetic, and a doctor who could not account for his pain, Harry Joe shut himself away from the hostile world. Locked away with him was Robbie Wayne. Severe disciplining of the boy began almost immediately. Robbie had long since learned to count to 20 and to recite the alphabet. If Dad had really been concerned about the boy's education, he would have enrolled him in school. But this inconsistency didn't seem to occur to him. He was determined that the boy was going to count to 20 by ones, fives, and tens, and he was going to learn to spell his name, not Robbie Wayne, but Robbie Dowd. Harry Joe would order the boy to count. The boy would refuse. Then Dowd would spank him until he started counting. When Robbie got stuck on a number, Dowd would spank him again. The spankings began with a little switch, which soon was discarded in favor of a board that measured 2 feet by 4 inches and was half an inch thick. Lana, who was at home all day during this period, regarded Dowd's treatment of Robbie inconsistently. Sometimes she tried to get Dowd to let up on the boy. At other times, too, she also swung the paddle. Harry Joe developed a technique for accomplishing the abuse with the least expenditure of effort. He made the boy stand in front of him, bend over, and hold his ankles. Then the 245-pound man, wielding the paddle in both hands, swung it with such force that he often knocked the child down. These beatings occurred 3 or 4 times a day at first, and then escalated to 5 or 6 times a day. Dowd also began shutting the boy in the closet in the children's bedroom. This closet was only 5 feet high by 2 feet wide, with no light, no windows, and no ventilation. Harry Joe monitored the closet closely. When he caught the boy trying to stretch out, he forced him to either stand up or to sit on the closet floor. During this period, Robbie was brought out of the closet to eat with the family. Although food for everybody was in short supply and consisted mostly of oatmeal, beans, and macaroni, because of this scarcity, it was only 2 or 3 days before Robbie's release from the closet was postponed until after the family had eaten. He was allowed to eat the leftovers. If there were none, he was given a glass of water with 2 teaspoons of sugar in it. One night, when the beatings, the closet confinement, and the hunger failed to produce an obedient child, Harry Joe tried another approach. He filled the bathtub with water almost up to the top, and dragged the child from the closet. "Count up to 100 by 5s, he ordered. The boy tried, but stumbled at 15. "You dumbbell, you will never learn," he shouted. Then he picked up the child, carried him to the bathroom, and held his head under the water in the tub. "Now I want you to try counting again," he demanded. Again the boy faltered and was dunked in the tub, held under until he was fighting for breath. Dowd then dragged him back to the closet. Guys, I'm not sure if you're aware of this, but that is also known as waterboarding, a anti-terroristic or not anti-terroristic, but a torture approach that a lot of times people will do to get people to talk. Robbie began spending 20 to 22 hours a day confined in this closet. Occasionally at night he was able to sneak out and snatch some food. Dowd never really caught him, but later discovered the food was missing, so he nailed the closet door shut. This meant more torture for the boy. He had to ask to be let out of the bathroom, or let out to go to the bathroom. If Harry Joe, Lana, or Wendy were not around to bend the nails back, the boy would wet his pants. This enraged Dowd so much that he forbade him to drink water, and one day Dowd spotted an old extension cord with a broken socket. He cut off the socket, but kept the cord. He then dragged Robbie from the closet, demanding that he add some numbers. When the boy faltered, he plugged in the cord and touched the raw end to the child's arm. The electrical shock knocked Robbie down. He'd pick him up and struck the wire to him again. He did this over and over until the boy was relieved to be shoved back into the closet. Harry and Lana stayed at home most of the time, but occasionally they would go out to buy groceries or to have a few beers. Robbie seized these opportunities to beg Wendy for food. The girl usually sneaked him some, even though she ran the risk of being punished herself. Harry Joe himself gave the boys something to eat about every 2 or 3 days. Usually it was cold oatmeal with nothing on it, or a can of hominy, which the boy hated, or a spoonful of beans or potatoes. By the end of the first week in July, the boy was showing the ravages of his ill treatment. He had lost 15 or 20 pounds, his ribs and shoulder blades stuck out, his stomach appeared swollen, and he was pale and weak. He shook uncontrollably most of the time, and, pitifully, he had to hold his pants up with both hands to keep them from falling off. It may seem surprising that the other residents of the southwestern trailer court knew little or nothing about the occupants of trailer number 27. But Dowd hated and feared company and forbade Lana or Wendy to invite anyone into the trailer. He had never had friends and wanted to keep it that way. Wendy was just the opposite, though, gregarious and helpful. The neighbors often saw her hanging out diapers or running errands and thought of her as being exceptionally industrious and polite. Wendy knew that Robbie's ill treatment was wrong, but she was Harry Joe Dowd's loyal, adoring slave. She either would not or could not betray him. Brad Thomas, the owner of the trailer court, later stated that at first he had no recollection of the boy. But then he recalled that one afternoon in early July he had just happened to look out of his office window and saw the little blonde girl with a very pale, emaciated boy who was too weak to stand up by himself. And as he watched, the girl supported the child, half carrying him, half dragging him back to the trailer. It was unfortunate that Brad Thomas asked no questions. He assumed that the boy was, quote unquote, retarded or something, and that the helpful little girl was doing her best for him. Later, he would comment that if he could do it over again, he would report Robbie Wayne's case to the authorities, even though he had little to go on except instinct. It would have been better to be wrong 100 times than to fail a child like Robbie Wayne and to have to live with that failure the rest of his days. Or rest of my days, he said. Apparently the residents of the trailer court did not hear anything suspicious. They heard none of the child's screams or cries. They did not hear anything even during the first week in July, when Dowd came up with still another heinous punishment. They were all at home, and in fact, Harry Joe needed both Lana and Wendy to perform the gruesome feat. Harry Joe removed the nails from the closet door and dragged Robbie into the living room by one arm. "Count to 100, he commanded. The boy stammered and missed 11 and 20. So Harry Joe made him get down on his hands and knees. He then tied a string around one of his front teeth, fastening the other end to a doorknob. "You hold him, Wendy," he ordered, while Lana and I slammed the door. The tooth was a baby one, but it wasn't loose. It did not come out until the door had been slammed several times. Harry Joe then demanded that Robbie count again, but the shivering child could not. Following his orders, Lana attached the string to another of the boy's front teeth. Wendy held him down while the adults again slammed the door. After 3 attempts, the second tooth came out. The next day, under the pretext of teaching him to count, Dowd and Lana pulled 2 more of Robbie's teeth in the same manner. Unbeknownst to them, though, they also fractured his jaw. When they approached him again with the string, he suddenly was able to count even though his mouth was bleeding. Harry Joe said laughingly, "If you would recite like that all the time, you wouldn't have such things happen to you." Nonetheless, the boy was shoved back into the closet without food or water. July 8, 1978 was a Saturday. Lana had gotten up really early to report for her first days of work at a new cafeteria. The trailer was a mess. Dirty dishes and dirty laundry were everywhere. The baby was fussy, and Wendy Jo, usually who was so helpful, was engrossed in a book and ignored her father's orders to get busy on this place. Finally, Harry Joe thought of Robbie. He went to the closet, removed the nails, and dragged the shaking child out. "I want you to wash those dishes," he barked. Robbie was so weak it was hard for him to stand. Holding his pants up with one hand, he pushed a chair to the sink by using his free hand and his body. Shakily, he filled the sink with hot water, poured in some detergent, and began dunking the dishes. "Those aren't clean, you dumbbell," Dowd objected, forcing the boy to wash the dishes over and over. Lana arrived home in the afternoon, kicked off her shoes, and lay down on the sofa in the living room. "Don't flop down there," Dowd ordered. "This place has got to be cleaned up. That no-good son of yours can't seem to get the dishes clean. I've had him washing them all morning." "Well, where's that precious daughter of yours? What is she doing?" "Wendy Jo!" Dowd bellowed. "Get in here right now." The girl hastily put down her book and reported to her father. "You're not much You're not much help to me today, he scolded. I want you to go into that kitchen and wash those dishes. Tell the kid that I want him to mop the hallway floor and the bathroom. Now move. Crushed by her father's disapproval, Wendy Jo did as he commanded, collecting the rest of the dirty dishes scattered around the trailer. In the baby's room, she caught Robbie drinking cola from the baby's bottle against Dowd's explicit rules. Anxious to get back into her father's good graces, Wendy Jo, usually Robbie's advocate, ran into the living room and tattled. Harry Jo stomped back to the bedroom, grabbed the culprit, lifted him off the floor by one arm, and pulled him, screaming, into the living room. "Leave him alone!" Lana begged as the furious man and the terrified child entered the room. Dowd responded by throwing the boy to the floor. Robbie hit his head on a chair as he went down and landed with a dull thud. His screams stopped abruptly. The child had been knocked down perhaps 300 times in the previous months. Each time he had gotten back up, either by himself or with the help of Lana or Wendy. This time, he lay where he had fallen, like a broken doll. Lana, Dowd, and Wendy sat staring at his crumpled form for a long moment. Finally, Lana broke the silence. "Let's take him to the hospital," she suggested. "You know we can't do that. They'd ask too many questions. Doctor him yourself," Dowd ordered. Lana knelt down and tried mouth-to-mouth resuscitation, but she had no training, and it's doubtful that she performed the procedure correctly. After a few minutes she gave up the attempt. Dowd threw cold water on the child, also to no avail. Robbie was wearing blue shorts, a red and white t-shirt, and a leather belt with a silver buckle, embossed with the figure of a bucking bronco. This is a uniform worn by millions of small boys on carefree summer Saturdays. Except that this child did not run, play, and laugh like the others. This child would never grow tall and manly. He had been born healthy and intelligent, and during the past 4 months he had demonstrated remarkable courage. But the world would never know what he might have achieved. He had become a fallen warrior at the age of 6. Medical help was readily available. Less than 3 minutes away was the county hospital, a modern facility that was well equipped for emergencies. It will never be known if the boy's life could have been saved by quick medical attention. But it must be recorded here that Lana Wood, his mother, and Harry Jo Dowd, his surrogate father, made no attempt to obtain medical help for him. Finally, Lana sat back on the sofa, closed her eyes, and began to cry softly. Wendy Jo, when she realized the truth, began screaming. "What's the matter with you two?" Dowd asked lightly, trying to ignore what must have become apparent even to him. "He's dead," Wendy Jo told him. "Robbie's dead." Dowd sat stunned, unable to move or speak. Finally, Wendy Jo went to her room, pulled a sheet off her bed, and covered the small body with it. This seemed to bring the adults to life, and they began discussing the situation. "I think we should turn ourselves in," Dowd said. "We haven't got any chance." "It's too late to turn ourselves in. Robbie's dead," Lana sobbed. "I think we should go ahead and burn him ourselves." "How can we do that? Where could we go?" Dowd asked. "I know a place in Texas where nobody ever goes," Lana said. "We rented a run-down farmhouse there when I was a kid. The house burned down and has never been fixed up." The discussion of the next move continued for the rest of the afternoon. The child who in life had been the bane of their existence was now dead, and an even bigger problem.